companies misusing your data for training their AI models. Data breaches is still a major challenge. If you're using a SaaS application, you don't have full control. Phishing is a still serious concern for the organization. Even if they have MFA enabled, attack surface is increased now.
Hi, and welcome to miniTalks, where we talk about the latest trends in cybersecurity. And today, we'll be talking about how businesses are transitioning to the cloud and the security challenges they're facing with it. Joining me today is a cloud security expert, Mr. Kalpesh Hiran. Thank you for joining us, Kalpesh.
Thank you, Nakul. Thank you for the introduction. I'm excited to talk more about cloud app security and adoption and challenges customers are facing adopting to the cloud.
Let's talk about the big picture stuff. Earlier, companies were really hesitant on moving to the cloud, but now we're seeing a change in that dynamic. So, could you tell us why exactly businesses are now changing this?
Yeah, so initially there was a lot of fear and uncertainty around the adoption of the cloud. That was mainly because of customer had less control. They were worried about cloud app security, how it works, and data privacy. So companies misusing your data for training their AI models or running the ads. So those were the major concern, and data breaches also. So data breaches have increased a lot recently. So that with main concerns around the cloud, but the technology advancement in the cloud, improvement in the regulatory frameworks, the scalability you get with the cloud, that too with the cost efficiency. So those were the main points which changed the customer mindset, and now they have started adapting to the cloud. They have started moving to the cloud. One more factor I'll say was COVID-19 pandemic, where remote work was essential. So as employees are doing remote work, organizations had to change their infrastructure setup so that their applications can be accessed from remote machines. So employees working from home, they can access the machine. So that has contributed to the change in mindset of the customer.
Right. So from traditional to the cloud, there definitely has to be a change in the security parameter. How is this different? How are the security parameters for the traditional infrastructure and the cloud infrastructure different?
Right. So if you consider traditional infrastructure, it was a limited boundary, you can say. They had their on-premise infrastructure. It was in their hand if they want to allow traffic to inside the network or not. You can say that their on-premise network was isolated from the internet. So the security strategy they used to apply was very different, and it was not that complex. But as you are moving to the cloud, now you are using the infrastructures like AWS or the Azure cloud. You're using SaaS applications. Your employees are working remotely. You now have to take care of security of your laptops, mobile devices, or remote workspaces. So as you can see that attack surface is increased now. So instead of just a on-premise network with just one entry point, now attack surface is a cloud infrastructure which is publicly accessible. Anyone can access that. Your mobile devices where phishing can be done. So attack surface has increased now, and now they have to think about a different strategy than their traditional on-premise strategy.
Right. So now that businesses, they have now shifted to the cloud and they're getting comfortable with it, but they're still not safe. So what are the security challenges that they're still facing?
I'll say data breaches is still a major challenge because it is because of the security misconfiguration in their cloud infrastructure, or insider threats, or inadequate access control, giving more permission than what is required. So those are the causing the data breaches and other issues. Other than that, visibility is reduced. So with the cloud infrastructure, someone else is hosting your infrastructure, or someone else is the SaaS application. If you're using a SaaS application, you don't have a full control. So visibility is one of the concern, getting a full visibility. And if you are on the cloud, you will have users from different regions. So if you are hosting in a different region, so regulations, so compliance and regulations from different countries jurisdiction. So that is the challenge for the organizations.
So compliances, visibility, and data breaches. Okay. So to tackle all of these, what can businesses do to secure their infrastructure on the cloud?
So let's go one by one. If we talk about inadequate access control. So for that, organization should have a zero trust infra architecture in place, where they are giving access to only what is required and only for the time duration till which the access is required, not full access permanently. So that organization should adapt to granular access control, and to handle other issues they should have access restrictions. So let's say I can control access to my resources from specific country if there are regulation issues, and I can decide the policies based on from which country you are accessing from. And visibility, if let's say there are a solution like CASB, where all the traffic is going through your CASB server, you get a full visibility of what is happening, what data is being accessed, what actions are being performed, and so what your employees are doing, and in case if there is any suspicious activity, getting alerts for that. So that visibility and control you get if you put CASB in place.
Right. So let's take an example here. Suppose a company, they're using Google Workspace, and it already has its own built-in security features, and we can control who we're sharing documents and their data to. Beyond what Google offers, beyond that, what else can a CASB provide?
Google has basic RBAC, I'll say. So you create different roles in Google. For each role, you can define the access, what part of the Google Cloud can be accessed, and what part can't be accessed. But what is required is granular access control. So that is not possible. So let's take an example where I want to give access to a couple of Google apps from my network. Like let's say Drive is the one thing where my data stays, or Gmail is the thing where my confidential data or sensitive information can be there. So what I want is that information should be accessible only from my network, and some of the applications should be accessible from outside the network. So that granular layer of control, that is not possible with Google right now. So that can be done. Visibility, so getting more logs, getting more audits about what is happening, what actions employees are doing. So that if you go through CASB, so getting that visibility is possible. Restricting actions, let's say files from where they are being downloaded. If you want that my file should be downloaded from only specific devices, trusted devices. So that is not being handled right now with the Google, which we can make possible
with the CASB. So you're adding an additional layer in front of Google.
That's correct. So that will be an additional layer, and all the traffic will pass through that layer.
Right, but can't users directly go to Google instead of going through your layer?
Good question. So that is obvious question which organizations ask to us, because when as Google is on the cloud, it's gmail.com or google.com, anyone can type in and access that. So but still the solution is developed in a way that whenever someone is trying to log in, we take them through identity and access management platform, so that the session which is being created is not on the Google side. It should be behind CASB only. So we have connected Google to our IAM platform and ensured that whenever the session is being created, it is behind CASB. So that is being taken care of.
Right. So let's take another example here. I'm a business owner, and I don't trust these big internet companies on how they're handling my data. but I have to use their infrastructure. I have to use AWS and Google. Um, my data is passing through them, but I'm concerned about its safety because it's critical to me. So is there a way there's this CASB solution? How can it safeguard my data even though if it's on someone else's cloud infrastructure?
If you're using the cloud applications, like Google was one of the example, or if you're using Salesforce Salesforce CRM where your customer data is there. So organizations are concerned about that. So if they're storing data on the cloud, and can they trust about security of that cloud application? So that is, security is one of the part. Can that or SaaS application handle their security? Or in case that SaaS application is selling their data. So there are concerns around data, and data of organizations, like critical data they have. So keeping that on the cloud is always a concern for them. So what we do is CASB installed on inside their network, and whatever traffic is which is flowing outside the network, it goes with another layer of encryption, not the SaaS encryption. They have their own encryption. So this encryption happens with the organization's own encryption key. And whatever data is being stored on the cloud infrastructure, it is you can say just a garbage data for the SaaS application. They can't even decrypt that data. And whenever data is flowing back inside organization network again, so we decrypt that so that users can see and perform actions on that data.
Right.
So with that, the data is not leaving your boundaries. So if you have a, let's say, perimeter organization, on-premise perimeter, so data is not leaving your boundary.
Okay, so CASB is working at a network level, but can't just users download that data? So do you need to install agents on their devices as well?
So there are both approaches. So the simplest approach is going agentless. So your users don't have to worry about any installations, or if you don't have a domain joined environment, you don't have to worry about installing agent on every machine. So agentless approach. But let's say if you want more security, like which devices should be allowed, trusted devices, or you're controlling that around phishing, so no one can do phishing on your application. So there are more things like that. So advanced level of features, those are possible with the agent based approach. So for that, agent installation is required, but the basic set of things like doing a granular access control, getting visibility of that is possible without any agent.
Now, just talking about phishing, it is one of the most prevalent attacks in the industry, and we never know about it, but we can always be a victim to it. And it's really easy for hackers to create a phishing page, and then if an employee from my company, if they visit that page, their session can be hijacked. Now, how as a business owner, as an organization, how can we still protect our sensitive data, even if a phishing attack does take away one of my employees' session?
The way attackers are doing phishing now, it is like next level. So even if you have MFA in place, so in that case as well, they are able to do the phishing attacks, because what they are doing is creating a phishing page, sending the traffic of, earlier it was a password, so they were just hacking your password, hijacking your session. Now what they're doing is, along with password, even if you have MFA enabled, they're sending the traffic, prompting you to enter the MFA code, sending it to the servers, and after successful authentication, they're hijacking your cookies and taking over your accounts. So phishing is a still serious concern for the organization, even if they have MFA enabled. So what we do with CASB is we have somehow tied it to the domain. So whenever you're trying to log in, so we have tied the authentication to your domain name. So if you're trying from some other domain, it won't allow you to log in. So let's say if the attackers have the phishing domain, so, and if you have CASB enabled, all the traffic is going through CASB. At the authentication, it will verify that are you on the correct domain. is the traffic coming from the correct domain. That is how the phishing is. We have stopped phishing for many organizations, and I think if you go with FIDO or FIDO type of MFA methods, those methods provide the phishing resistant MFA by default. But for there are many organizations which are still want to use their employees still want to use the traditional method of MFAs like SMS. So for that, we have solved the case for them by tying the authentication with the domain name, so that even if the attacker tried to create a phishing page, they won't be able to do that.
Right. And my final question, like, suppose if there was a company that did not jump on the cloud bandwagon, and now they believe that the traditional security won't work for them, they have to move to the cloud, right? And they have around 5,000 to 10,000 users in their company, and now they want to shift to the cloud infrastructure. What are some steps that you would suggest to them, you will recommend to them that they should follow?
Okay, so I think first step they should do is instead of moving completely to the cloud, what they can do is identify two categories: the applications where they have sensitive data, that will be the first category, and the applications where the data is not that critical, or that can be a second category. And for the critical data applications, what they can do is start moving that first to the cloud, so that those critical applications will be secured first.
Right.
And along with that, they have to make sure that they have granular access control in place or zero trust architecture in place, because in the on-premise network, there was not much need to have all of that security. But if they move to the cloud, it is not isolated from the internet. Everything is publicly accessible. So they have to make sure that they have proper security in place with zero trust principles. And so in phase one, they should move with the data sensitive, data critical applications. They should move to the cloud, and then they can slowly plan in phase two, they can plan the other applications.
Right. All right. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Kalpesh. And it was great having you here. You definitely learned a lot.
Thank you, Nikhil.